Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. We're here today with special guest, Nataliya Falevich, who's here to share with us her new novel, Velvet Blade. What if the greatest battle isn't fought on a battlefield, but within the timeless struggle between power, identity, and the courage to become who you are meant to be? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Nataliya Falevich is an author, creator, entrepreneur, and mother based in New York. She's the author of Velvet Blade and the creator of Vulnerable Chaos, where she writes about identity, creativity, desire, freedom, and transformation. Her work lives at the intersection of femininity, power, embodiment, and authentic self-expression, inviting readers to explore what it means to live a deeply aligned life. So welcome to the show, Nataliya Falevich.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today.
My goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this novel. What sparked the idea to write this book?
Probably I have to start with the fact that I wrote this book because I just could not write this book. This is what I always actually tell people. I used to work as an educational leader. I had my own business, and I still do actually. The idea of writing a book was never on my mind actually up until the moment that this book actually was asking for me to be written. Let me tell you this story. I was actually hesitant of telling this story, but I think I have to tell the story of how this book came up to me. It's not a very traditional story in a sense that people expect, like, I had some kind of a vision and I wanted to go about that vision. No, that's not what happened, actually. What happened was for many years, I was everything that I could do to achieve more. I was climbing a career ladder, and I actually climbed so far that I was very high in Board of Education. At that particular time, I was satisfied. Like, my life always looked from the outside as, a very, very big success, like an American dream came true. But something inside of me was quietly telling me that there is something more to my life that I have to do. And at that particular time, I just didn't know what that was. But long story short is that I started really going deep within myself, and I started going to therapy. I started being interested in various ways of finding out about myself, like, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing here? And there came astrology, human design, oh my God, you name it, everything. And one of the things that I tried to really find out, like, what is bugging me inside? Why this life that I've created is not enough for me? What is going on? I went in to a regression session. And to tell the listeners what it is that you go into a deep state of hypnosis with, like, certain questions. The person who is doing this session is asking you specific questions of what is going on, what do you see, and things like this. So I decided to take a leap of faith, and I was like, let me try it. Why not? And I went into a regression session. And that was my first session. And to give you a preview, I had 4 of those. When I went into that deep state of hypnosis, the first scene that I actually was able to see, and then I listened to myself on the recording because I don't really remember what I was saying, was a scene of a young woman, and that was me, walking across a vast, I didn't know what it was at that time, all, covered in blood. And then I realized it was a desert, heavily pregnant, and just walking across that desert, holding a blade full of blood. And I imagine, and I remember very vividly up until today, I was scared. I didn't understand what was this. How could I actually see that picture? I had no idea. Maybe I saw it in one of the movies. Maybe it was my very vivid and big imagination. So that first regression session, I left with lots of questions, because the images that I saw were not actually very typical to me or to my life or whatever. I was deeply confused, let me put it this way. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to explore this. I've decided to really go deep into this and understand, like, what were those images? Why did they come to me? And after this first regression session, I started having dreams. They were like, very subtle dreams, of little scenes, like pop-ups in memory, like something was talking to me, but I didn't understand what it was. Or I was driving my car in the middle of the highway, and a very weird feeling of me running through the desert barefoot, and my feet like hot from the sand, and I had those feelings. And I remember I was driving my car, and I was like, oh my god, what something is going on with me, something is wrong. And I had to pull up my car and kind of like sort of compose myself. So I would say that this book came to me in memories, in this little memories that were actually older than thoughts for me. And at that particular time, I didn't have a language for it. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that the story that was living inside of me actually needs to be told by me physically. And that's how I started writing Velvet Blade. This is the story of the beginning of Velvet Blade. So this is a little unusual, I guess, for the readers, but I am being extremely truthful right now. So this is how it happened.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. I often hear of people who have any type of hypnotherapy, or if they go into a past life regression, that a lot of times they describe it as feeling more real than the reality we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of insight comes from it. Did you feel that you were given a lot of insight into who you are as a person and your life from these experiences?
Yeah, I would say 100%. Yes, absolutely. Um, but you know what? Not maybe not in a particular way that people expect. For me, the value wasn't in trying to prove whether the experience was objectively real, but the value was in what it revealed emotionally for me and symbolically. Because sometimes I think that our minds have a very difficult time, like really assessing what is happening, beneath the surface, and experiences, like I had, like that hypnotherapy, or like a very deep meditation, or like a very guided kind of inner work. It can really bypass our usual defense mechanism that is set in our mind, and allow us to see ourselves from a very different perspective. And actually, what I took away from that wasn't like a set of answers about my past. necessarily. I would say it was a deeper understanding of myself in present, actually, because it helped me recognize patterns that I had been I have been carrying for a long, long time, like fears that I really couldn't fully understand and acknowledge, and those parts of myself that were really asking for me to be seen, but I couldn't see them in that regular state of mind that we usually have. Whether like someone maybe interprets those experiences as like maybe psychological or symbolic or spiritual, right? Or something else. I think it's entirely like a personal choice. For me, what mattered the most was the transformation that experience inspired in me. And the question I always come back to is not was that experience like literally true, but the question was, did it help me to live more truthfully afterwards? Did it help me to experience what I'm experiencing right now? Okay. So it helped me to become more compassionate, I would say, towards myself. It really deepened my intuition. And I would say it strengthened my trust in my own inner knowledge that I had inside. And I always had it inside. And it's just, I never really allowed myself to trust that inner knowledge.
I love what you said, which is that this experience helped you with this life now. I often hear of
Yeah.
people who have these experiences and then get stuck in the past, as
Yeah.
opposed to implementing the key lessons. And it sounds like you've learned quite a bit that you are using for your life today.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually treated, I went into that experience with an open heart. Actually, for me, I think the value was never really about staying in that experience forever. It was about like bringing what I learned back into my life, because we all come into this life already with a huge amount of knowledge. And I think that any transformational experience, like, right, whether it might be therapy, right, it might be meditation, it might be hypnotherapy, right, or some kind of a spiritual experience, or even like a great book that we can read, right, they all have the same purpose, not really to help us escape the reality, but to help us live the reality more consciously. That's what it is for me.
It seems that people really sometimes wrestle with their ideas of identity. What would you say you've discovered about the process of reinvention for yourself?
I've been through the process of reinvention, Jesus, so many times. Um, well, I think that the biggest thing that I've discovered is that reinvention isn't really about becoming somebody else. You know, it is actually about remembering who you are beneath all those identities that actually you've collected over the course of your life, because we have so many of them. And for a long time, I actually identified myself by my roles, and I had so many roles. I was an immigrant when I came to America at 22. I was a student when I was, getting all of my degrees. I am the entrepreneur. I am the wife. I am the mother. So all these roles, and they are absolutely real, and I'm very grateful for them, but they are not actually the whole who I am, because over time I realized that identity isn't something that we find once in our lifetime and then we keep it forever. It's not possible. It's something that actually continue to evolve with us, and we evolve all the time. We are not stagnant, and the mistake that I made was actually believing that I had to stay loyal to that old version of myself, just because that version worked so hard to build the life that I already had, And what I've learned is that you can't really honor who you are, right? Without remaining who you were. That's, to me, is actually a reinvention. It's not rejecting your past. It is allowing actually your presence, the present time, and allowing your present self to have a voice. And that was probably the most important lesson that I had to learn.
I think that that is a lesson many people go through their entire lifetime without picking up. We get kind of stuck in these titles that people give us without really kind of identifying, how do I feel about myself?
Yeah, especially us as women, because I feel we are, absolutely subjected to have one kind of a role. If you're a mother, then you have a role of a mother, right? You have a wife. If you are a wife, then you have a role of a wife, and then in addition, you have a role of a mother. I think we as women have so many roles written for us that we are just drowning in them by now, I think. So yeah.
Well, I know that you often speak of embodied awareness. What does that mean, and why is that such an important part of your work?
Yes, I do. I do talk about body a lot in my writing. It's actually such a beautiful question. So I think it is such an important part of my work because I've lived it. I know what it feels like to build a life that looks successful. And I know what it is to live that a successful life, but quietly losing that touch with yourself simultaneously. And I also know what it feels like to actually find your way back, because that journey changed me completely. And I would say that it taught me that most people, they are not looking for someone to tell them what to do. They are actually looking for a permission to trust what they already have deep inside. And that was my struggle. I just couldn't find that permission without myself. So that's why my work isn't about really giving answers. I'm not giving anybody any answers. It's about, I would say, creating a space where people can hear their own answers. And it doesn't matter if I'm writing a novel, if I'm having a conversation like this with you right now, or I am doing a photo shoot, or I am working maybe with someone one-on-one, mentoring people. I'm asking always the same question: what becomes possible when we stop abandoning ourselves? And I believe that's where the transformation begins, not with another strategy, not with another achievement, but with a very deep honesty with yourself. Because once we are honest with ourselves, we actually can make choices that are aligned with who we are instead of who we think we are, supposed to be. And I think that's why this work matters to me so much.
When we get into that kind of alignment with our authentic selves, do people tend to have just happier lives and blaze trails they never even thought they could?
Very interesting question. I don't know that authenticity really grants you a necessarily happier life. No. You know what I think? I think it actually offers you a more honest life, and for me, I think that is more valuable than anything else, because you know, we when we live authentically, right? I don't think our problems really disappear. No, it's not what it happens. Because We still experience losses, we still experience uncertainty, disappointment, fear. I mean, you name it. But what we are no longer fighting is we are no longer fighting ourselves while we in the process of us facing these challenges. This is, I think, this is the very important distinction, because there's an incredible amount of energy that gets freed up when you really stop pretending to be someone that you are not. And that energy, when it's freed up, it just fuels your creativity. Okay. And that's what happened with me, actually, when I allowed myself to be fully who I am. It actually really created so much space and energy for me even to write this book.
Of course, my goodness. I know you talk about also the woman inside the right life. What does that mean?
You know what? That's a very interesting question, because we always think that the right life is something like external, right? To me, the woman inside the right life is like a specific part of ourselves that no one can see. Okay, that woman is she is beneath. She's beneath all the titles, all the accomplishments, all the expectations that are put on her. She is the woman who knows what actually brings her alive. Okay, the woman who has dreams, she has intuition, she is creative. I think so many women spend like years building a beautiful life, right? And we think it's a beautiful life, and it does look like a beautiful life because we become mothers, we become partners, we become, professionals. I don't know, caregivers, entrepreneurs. I mean, you name it, right? We carry so many responsibilities, but somewhere along the way of all these accomplishments, right? And of all the building a beautiful life, we become experts at taking care of everybody else, right? But the question that I keep on asking, and that I uh, keep on asking my readers, is who's taking care of the woman that live inside of all those roles? Okay, and that's what I mean by the woman inside the right life. It's not about rejecting your life, it's about making sure that the person who is living that life, right, hasn't disappeared, because that's what happened to us as women. We might very quietly disappear inside all of that. And because you can have a wonderful life, right, on paper, you can still feel extremely disconnected from yourself. And when that happens, it doesn't mean that your life is wrong. No, it means that I think it means simply that you've grown that version of you. Okay. And for me, the work has always been helping these women reconnect with their inner woman, right? Not so they become really somebody different, so that the life that they've built can begin to reflect who they are today, right? Not just who they were 10 or 20 years ago. And that's, I believe, where the authenticity begins. When the woman inside your life finally feels at home in the life that she's created.
As both an entrepreneur and a writer, what interests you the most about exploring the relationship between power and personal freedom?
A great question, actually. I love this question. What fascinates me is that, what we often think that power and freedom, they come from the outside. To me, it's not the case. What we think, that if I have more success, right, if I have more money, more I don't know, influence, more choices, then I finally will be free. That's what I kept on thinking for many years. But what I've learned, that you can have all of these things that I just said and still feel imprisoned, imprisoned by fear, by expectations, because when you are in a position of power, there are so many of those expectations on you. That's why I am so interested in the relationship between power and personal freedom. Because for me, real power isn't really control over people, it's the ability to actually remain true to yourself. It is having the courage to make choices that align with your values, right? Even when they are very uncomfortable. Real freedom isn't the absence of the responsibility. It's the freedom to live without constantly betraying who you are. And I think that's the journey that every one of us is actually on, because we are all asking in one way or the other way, right? How do I become free enough to live as my authentic self, right? But that's what these I think that's why these themes appear throughout my work, because I believe the greatest prison isn't outside of us. It is the one that we create when we really silence our voice. And the greatest act of power, it is not a domination, it's actually a self-liberation. Okay. And the moment we stop living according to who we think we should be, right, and begin living from the place who we truly are, that's where freedom begins. And to me, that's the most, I would say, powerful transformation of all.
Well, Natalia, I thought your book was such a great read, Velvet Blade. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
So I have my website, which is nataliyafalevich.com. And on that website, there are links to my social media, to my Instagram, to my Facebook, and there is a link to Amazon to purchase my book. So whoever is on Instagram, they can follow me and find me on Instagram by my name, Nataliya Falevich. And if you're willing to buy my book, then just go on Amazon and type Velvet Blade, and there we go.
Well, Natalia, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Marianne. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Natalia. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Velvet Blade. Velvet Blade's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.